And you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Immanuel Wilkins, his biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about more of his best albums of all time. Here's a quick recap of what's coming up. So we're going to be covering Out of Into Motion 1 2024 and Motion 2 2025, the two-volume collective project where Wilkins co-leads with Gerald Clayton, Joel Ross, Kendrick Scott and Matt Brewer. These albums are post-bop at its finest, tight compositions, soaring solos and interplay that feels like telepathy. Then we move on to the legendary Village Vanguard live recordings, a three-volume set capturing Wilkins' concert in September 2025. From amazing openers to extended improvisations, spiritual meditations and exploratory free passages, the Vanguard series places him firmly in the lineage of jazz greats. So we'll talk about how each live volume adds layers to his artistry, the energy, the extended solos, the ensemble chemistry, and the in-the-moment magic you can only get at a venue like the Vanguard. First up, Out of Into Motion 2 release in 2025, picking up where Motion 1 left off. This album reflects months of live performances and road-tested improvisation. Recorded during their anniversary tour, each of the 6 originals shows the quintet refining their sound. Wilkins' alto lines are agile, sometimes precise and bebop-like, at other times free, soaring, almost abstract. You can hear him weaving melodic statements in the ensemble, then suddenly launching into a soul that surprises even the rhythm section. Critics call it a soulful five-way with internal poetry, and that's spot on. The interplay between Williams, Clayton on piano, and Ross on vibes feels telepathic. Each phrase a response to the last. Motion 2 reinforces the collective ethos. The Village Vanguard recordings, a milestone for any jazz musician. Volume 1 released in 2026 introduces us to his chord Mika Thomas on piano, Ryoma Takanaga on bass, and Kweku Sambri on drums. The set opens with a live rendition of Warriors, and what a difference a live setting makes. The solos stretch further, the energy is immediate, and the audience, though muted on the recording, seems palpable in the intensity of the performance. A standout moment here is Sharonam, a devotional piece by Alice Coltrane. Wilkins alto dances in and out of the spiritual melody, bridging traditional personal expression. The closing composition To and Eternal allow the group to stretch, extended improvisations where the lines between lead and accompaniment blur beautifully. Volume 2 released in 2026 continues this narrative. Tracks like The Big Country and Waiting Part 1 provide contrast between expansive cinematic statements and brooding meditative improvisation. Citrine from Omega comes alive here, faster, swinging harder with Wilkins weaving fluid alto lines over the driving rhythm section. Grace and Mercy slow things down, offering tender reflection, while Go Ahead Get Down grooves with bluesy exuberance. The hallmark here is the quartet's interplay. Volume 3 2026 caps off the 3-part Vanguard project with compositions that are brand new. Ring Shout channels African-American spiritual dancing, rhythmic, hypnotic and exuberant. Composition 9 is freeform, abstract and intense, a pure improvisational statement. And tracks like Dollars or Put 100 on the Blue Chain show the quartet exploring funk-inflected or conceptually driven jams. Wilkins' alto moves fluidly between lyrical passages and more atonal expressive bursts. The energy is raw and fearless. Across all 3 volumes, a few things are evident. First up, Wilkins' improvisational courage is front and center. The studio albums lay the foundation, but live he stretches even further. Secondly, the quartet's chemistry is remarkable. Motifs bounce between members, responses are instantaneous, and the rhythm section's elasticity provides endless possibilities. And third, these live albums cement Wilkins' place in the lineage of Vanguard legends. Think Coltrane, Woody Shaw, even more contemporary voices, while unmistakably sounding like his own generation. So these records illustrate how Wilkins navigates a space between structure and freedom. Studio precision meets live exploration. The results are thrilling. You'll hear him take the familiar Warriors and turn it into a new statement with every live solo, or pick up a new piece like Composition 9 where the only guide is the quartet's collective intuition. In summary, Motion 2 and the Village Vanguard live recording showcase the breadth of Wilkins' artistry. Adventurous composer, virtuosic improviser and compelling band leader. Motion 2 captures refinement and collaborative sophistication. The live volumes capture risk, spontaneity and sheer energy. Taken together, they document an artist at the height of creativity, bridging jazz tradition with forward-looking exploration. So that was some insight into more of Immanuel Wilkins' best albums of all time. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. We're going for a short break, and you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Immanuel Wilkins, his biography and best hits. Now it's time for some trendy music news. Julio Abad has just dropped a new single, Urban Tribal Dance. It's a collision of primal rhythm and modern urban energy. Released February 14th and streaming worldwide, this track blends tribal textures with cinematic jazz fusion flair. Abad enlisted 3 jazz heavyweights, Mike Stern on guitar bring his signature fusion fire, Paul Vertigo on drums, Grammy-winning and rhythm redefining, and Mark Egan on bass, known for his depth and innovation. Together, they pushed the single into bold cinematic territory. From amazing grooves to soaring melodic lines, every moment feels alive, like the heartbeat of the city meeting ancestral instinct. Avad, a multi-award-winning composer and keyboardist, has long blended groove-driven fusion with cinematic storytelling. Whether you're dissecting the intricate interplay or simply getting immersed in the past, this track shows Avad at the top of his game, a fusion statement that's both modern, primal, and unforgettable. So that was some trendy music news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Joshua Silva. We're going for a short break, we'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about more of Immanuel Wilkins' best albums of all time. Stay tuned. And you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Joshua Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Immanuel Wilkins' biography and best hits. During this summer, we're going to be talking about more of his best albums of all time. Here's a quick recap of what's coming up. So we are focusing on him as a sideman and collaborator, showing how his presence elevates projects led by other artists, from vibraphonist Joel Russell's Kingmaker released in 2019 and Who Are You released in 2020, to drummer Jonathan Blake's tribute album Homeward Bound released in 2021, to his standout performance on Leonard Cohen's tribute album Here It Is released in 2022. Wilkins proves he's not just a leader but a trusted transformative ensemble player. So that was some insight into what's coming up during this hour, and you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Joshua Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Immanuel Wilkins, his biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about more of his best albums of all time. So let's start with Joel Ross, the vibraphonist who has become one of the most exciting voices on Blue Note. Wilkins' appearance on Ross's debut, Kingmaker, released in 2019. On Kingmaker, the Good Vibes ensemble provides a modern post-bop canvas. Wilkins' alto is immediately noticeable, warm, expressive, and surprisingly versatile. Take the title track, Kingmaker. He delivers a blues-tinged solo that weaves emotion with technical precision. Then there's the grand struggle against fear, where he and Ross engage in a lightning-fast trade-off. Wilkins' ability to step up or step back is remarkable. On ballads like Frida's Disposition, he's lyrical and delicate, almost whispering over Gretchen Parlato's vocals. Fast forward a year, and Who Are You sees the Good Vibes Quintet further tightening their collective sound. The album exemplifies his philosophy of social music. Jonathan Blake's Homeward Bound released in 2021. This debut album is a tribute to Sandy Hook victim Anna Grace. Wilkins is front and center, trading solos with Ross over Blake's intricate compositions. The title track, Homeward Bound for Anna Grace, is a highlight. The two young lions engage in a rapid-fire dialogue, with Virel's piano anchoring the groove. Shaking the Biscuits brings a funk edge, allowing Wilkins to flex a playful jazz-funk sensibility, while Abiyoyo introduces a waltz-like African lullaby feel. The cover of Joe Jackson's Steppin' Out is a tour de force. Wilkins channels his Coltrane-inspired intensity. Across Homeward Bound, Wilkins' contributions highlight his versatility, from ballads to funk grooves to high-octane improvisation. Finally, let's talk about Wilkins' unique contribution to Here It Is, a tribute to Leonard Cohen released in 2022. This one's a bit different. Not a lead album, not a standard jazz project. Produced by Larry Clean, it's a jazz-influenced tribute featuring top-tier artists, including Bill Frisell, Kevin Hayes, Scott Colley, and Nate Smith. Wilkins takes a lead on the instrumental track Avalanche, and what he does is stunning. His alto captures the brooding, introspective power of Coltrane's original. Critics singled it out, calling his interpretation melodic and haunting. Even among a roster of A-list collaborators, Wilkins' voice cuts through with clarity and feeling. The track illustrates not just technical skill but also interpretive genius. Across all these sideman and collaborative projects, a few things become clear. First, Wilkins is endlessly adaptable. From vibraphone-led ensembles to drummer-led tributes to concept albums, he knows when to lead, when to harmonize, and when to spark the energy from within. Second, he consistently leaves a mark. Even in supporting roles, you notice his alto. It's fluid and lyrical. So while his lead albums show his compositional genius and live mastery, his sideman work reveals his generosity, his taste, and his ability to elevate any project that he touches. From Kingmaker to Homeward Bound to Here It Is, Wilkins proves he's not just a star in his own right. He's a musician who lifts every ensemble he plays with. So that was some insight into more of Immanuel Wilkins' best albums of all time, and this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Joshua Silva. And you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Joshua Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Immanuel Wilkins, his biography and best hits. We've come to an end of this week's episode of the Jazz Update, so now it's time to recap what we're discussing on today's show. Born in 1997 in Upper Darby, just outside Philadelphia, Wilkins grew up immersed in church music. After studies at Juilliard and mentorship from visionaries like Ambrose Akinmusiri and Jason Moran, he emerged as a bold new force in modern jazz. His music is about tradition, spirituality, and social consciousness. His debut, Omega, released in 2020, was a seismic arrival, named the New York Times #1 jazz album of the year, confronting the black experience in America with fire and grace. The seventh hand, released in 2022, expanded his spiritual reach, culminating in the 26-minute improvisational epic Lift. Then came Blues Blood in 2024, a genre-blurring statement incorporating vocals and ancestral themes, earning him a Grammy nomination. So that was a quick recap of everything that we discussed on this week's episode of the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. And on that note, we've come to an end of this week's episode of the show. Don't forget, you can check out the archives of today's show on my YouTube channel, The Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan. So I'll see you again next week. Have a great week ahead.